This episode of One Hit Thunder is brought to you by DistroKid.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
When it comes to what your family eats and drinks, you know your choices matter. You're the expert because you know what fits your life. And getting it right starts with good information. That's why America's beverage companies are sharing more information about our ingredients at goodtoknowfacts.org. No spin, no judgments, just the facts straight from the experts for more than 140 beverage ingredients. Visit goodtoknowfacts.org.
It's Halloween again, so we thought it would be crazy not to dive into the legendary artist who brought us the lyric, "Little old lady got mutilated late last night." That's right. This week, we're diving into the life and career of Warren Zevon and his most famous single, 1978's Werewolves of London. A dark sense of humor paired with a songwriting voice all his own made Zevon a favorite among his contemporaries, from Jackson Browne to Linda Ronstadt to Bruce Springsteen. Unfortunately, he may have slipped under the radar to some casual music listeners. This week, we're here to howl as loud as we can about the incomparable Warren Zevon.
Werewolves of London. One hit is all you need to make the money guaranteed, and you can live off royalties forever. And it makes me wonder, is it just a wonder, or is it one hit thunder?
So Matt, you've been kind of preaching the gospel of Warren Zevon to me for a while now. And of course, I know the hit, Werewolves of London. Everybody knows it. And actually, I was a little bit surprised that we were going to talk about Warren Zevon on here, because I've always thought of Lawyers, Guns, and Money as also being a hit, but I guess it really wasn't. I would hear it on rock radio and stuff around me. Did you know Lawyers, Guns, and Money? Before you got a little deeper into Warren Zevon, did you know Lawyers, Guns, and Money as well?
Not really. I knew this song. My dad loved this song. And every time it was like, when I was a little kid, I got into like the Universal monster movies, and I loved the Wolfman. So like this was a song my dad would sing whenever I was like excited to watch like the Wolfman, or I'd see the Wolfman. He would sing the chorus to Werewolves in London. But I didn't really discover that there was more to Warren Zevon until after he died, which like is jumping really far to the end of the story. But in 2003, I guess it was, I was an avid Entertainment Weekly reader. I would get issues of Entertainment Weekly, and there was this whole article about like Warren Zevon is dying and he's recording this album as a goodbye. And then the album came out and it was like on the top of all these lists of like album of the year. And I still didn't actually dig into that album until the movie Funny People came out. If you remember that Adam Sandler, Seth Rogen movie, Funny People. Did you ever see that?
I never saw it, but I'm just
okay.
I'm listening. So
the premise of that movie is Adam Sandler is a comedian who gets a cancer diagnosis and is like reassessing his life before he dies, and Seth Rogen is this like struggling comic who idolizes the Adam Sandler character and becomes his personal assistant for the last year of his life. And for the first half of the movie, almost all of the music is from that last Warren Zevon album, specifically the song Keep Me in Your Heart. And I was like, oh my God, this is like one of the most beautiful, sad songs I've ever heard in my life. So then I finally went out and bought that record, bought that record, The Wind. And I was like, this is one of the prettiest and saddest albums I think I've ever listened to. And then I started to work backwards into the career of Warren Zevon and was like, oh, this dude, I think he's someone that you can compare to like a Harry Nilsson or a Paul Williams, where it's like not a mainstream hit, but boy, is he like a musician's musician. Like,
well, we can start at the end here of this episode, and then we'll double back to the beginning. But yes, Warren Zevon wrote this album in the last couple months of his life, and it has all these guest appearances, Bruce Springsteen and everyone else you could imagine, Jackson Browne on this final album he made. But I watched, which I'm sure you may have watched, his final appearance on David Letterman, which was only a few months before he died in 2002, I believe it was. Yeah. And David Letterman had been a champion of Warren Zevon his whole career. In fact, after I watched his final appearance, which I believe Warren Zevon was the first person who ever was the guest and the musical guest on David Letterman. He was the only guest that night. You know, he did his interview, which during his interview section with Dave, he gave this very famous quote where Dave was asking him, what have you learned? What in your position, knowing, you know, Warren Zevon was diagnosed with, he called it lung cancer on there, but it was actually mesothelioma, which I guess is a form of lung cancer. That's probably the more specific.
Yeah, that comes specifically from asbestos.
Right. Which they're not sure. Maybe as a kid there was asbestos in his dad's like rug business or something like that.
Yeah, that's how my grandfather, who died when I was like 2, died from asbestos. Like it was like a cancer from asbestos that they said. Right. And it was just because like in the 30s and 40s, it was just like in your ceiling. Like that was the insulation you would put in the ceiling of your house to keep you warm. So they said he was like in the attic of his dad's carpet store a lot, getting probably stuff to put out in the store, and got exposed to it at a young age. Right.
But anyway, they call it lung cancer on Letterman. But Warren says this very famous quote when Dave asks him, in your position now, is there something that you feel like you know that I don't know or something? And there's this one tidbit of what he answers where he basically says, enjoy every sandwich, which is kind of a funny way to say, like, enjoy every moment of your life. And that goes on to be something that people took away from that episode. In fact, they did a tribute album a few years later to Warren Zevon that Adam Sandler does Werewolves of London on. The Wallflowers do Lawyers, Guns, and Money. Jill Sobule is on it. There's like a bunch of artists are on it, but it's called Enjoy Every Sandwich.
A few of the other ones, because I just wrote down some of, it really says how much of a musician's musician he was, because you've got, like you said, Adam Sandler and all them. You have Don Henley, Jackson Browne, who was probably one of his best friends, Bruce Springsteen, Bonnie Raitt, Billy Bob Thornton, Pete Yorn, Bob Dylan, and the Pixies, all bringing songs to this cover album. It is one of those interesting stories, and I love this about someone like David Letterman, and you saw it with Conan, and you see it I think sometimes with people like Seth Meyers, where there's like a handful of guests that that guest could have nothing that they're promoting. They might not even be nearly as famous as they need to be, but like that late night show host just champions them so hard. Like Mark Maron with Conan. You know what I mean? Like Mark Maron is famous now, but when Mark Maron was just like a random New York comic, I think he did something like 40 appearances on Conan because Conan just loved him so much. And it seems like Warren Zevon was definitely one of those people for David Letterman, where he was like, I don't care that you're not the biggest musician in the world. You're one of my favorite musicians, so I'm going to have you on as many times as possible, to the point that I saw that he was Paul Schaefer's fill-in guy whenever Paul Schaefer wasn't available.
Yeah. I think that's really cool. I feel like if you or I were in that position, that's the kind of thing that we would do, where there's an underrated artist or just a personal favorite or just someone that you click with that might not be some mega celebrity, but you can relax and be yourself a little bit more. And I don't know, you're just a fan of that artist. And so I watched the final performance where Warren Zevon played 3 songs. One of them was this song. What was it called?
Roland the Headless Gunner or whatever? No.
That's Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner. Now that song is actually on Warren Zevon's big album, Excitable Boy. That's the album with Werewolves of London. We'll get to that. But the first song he played was this really mellow, awesome song called Mutineer, where he had like he had like flute in it and stuff. It was just like a really awesome performance. But let's back it up and take it from the beginning. We're talking about the end of Warren Zevon here, but I do want to start from the beginning with him.
Because, Chris, I have to say, even from the beginning, is Warren Zevon one of the most interesting lived lives we've ever talked about?
Yeah, I would say it's pretty interesting. He's originally from Chicago. His dad was a bookie who handled bets and dice games for the LA mobster Mickey Cohen. And then when Warren was 13, they moved to Fresno, California, where Warren briefly studied modern classical music under Igor Stravinsky. Yeah. And if you don't know who Stravinsky is, he's one of the most important and influential composers of the 20th century. So that's pretty interesting. That's a pretty cool background to have as a musician. Warren's parents divorced when he was 16, and he quit high school and moved from LA to New York City to become a folk singer.
I had to laugh. Did you see that not only did he move from Los Angeles to New York, it says that he drove there in a sports car that he had won in a card game.
Well, that his dad won in a card game.
That his dad won in a card game. I just love that there's like mob tie-ins and all types of crazy shit in the first 16 years of this kid's life before he goes to New York. And then, he starts I assume he's doing like coffee shops and stuff because he forms a musical duo with a friend from high school, and they have a minor hit with Follow Me.
Lime and Cybele was the name of the duo. And their minor hit Follow Me reached number 65 on the Billboard pop charts in April of 1966. And I don't know if you checked out this song, but it's pretty good. It's like an upbeat. At first I was like, this kind of reminds me of like an upbeat Simon and Garfunkel, but actually the more I listen to it, I'm like, this is very much like 60s pop rock, like the Monkees or the Turtles or something like that.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Turtles, because when he decided that he didn't want to be part of this musical duo anymore, the next gig he had was writing songs for the Turtles, right? And becoming a session musician and jingle composer,
right? And he knew the Turtles, or knew of the Turtles, because they were label mates on this record label called White Whale Records. That's who released the Lime and Cybele album. And then Warren decided to make his own solo album. It's called Wanted Dead or Alive. Came out in 1970, but didn't sell well.
Yeah, nobody cared. It got zero attention, really.
Right. So then Warren went back to his sort of session career, and he toured regularly with the Everly Brothers as a keyboard player, band leader, and musical coordinator. If you don't know who the Everly Brothers are, like that's one of those names you hear all the time, but I would say that the Everly Brothers' most famous song is Wake Up Little Susie, right?
Wake Up Little Susie. They also have that song, oh my God, I can't remember. All I Want to Do Is Dream, which I think is an amazing song. The dream. Like, that's a great song. They do a beautiful version of Love Hurts that was later covered in the 70s. and became a big hit. They have the Everly Brothers are really, really good. And the Everly Brothers are crucial to the Werewolves of London story, because it was on those tours that Phil Everly told Warren Zevon that he had watched the 1935 movie Werewolf of London and said, you should take that song title and turn it into a dance craze.
Yeah. I don't know if it's necessarily a dance craze, but he definitely made a long-lasting song out of it. But we'll get there.
We'll get there.
So
he moves back to Los Angeles, and this continues is this man's life one of the most interesting lives in the world? Because he moves to Los Angeles to become roommates with Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham of Fleetwood Mac.
Yes. I don't know how or why that happened, that he became roommates with them. But then he collaborated with, this guy would be a big part of, the popularity or the growing popularity of Warren Zevon, Jackson Browne, who then produced and also promoted Warren Zevon's self-titled major label debut in 1976. The contributors on this album are wild. You got Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham and Mick Fleetwood and John McPhee. So basically most of Fleetwood Mac. Plus members of the Eagles, Carl Wilson, Linda Ronstadt, she'll become part of the story here soon, and Bonnie Raitt.
Which this is well before Bonnie Raitt was someone huge, I feel like, in 75. Mm-hmm. I feel like Bonnie Raitt's career didn't take off until the mid 80s, really. Jackson Browne also, I'm a huge Jackson Browne fan. Something noteworthy about Jackson Browne that actually ties to something that you talked about on a Krista Miggs After Party episode. He wrote the Eagles' first hit. He wrote Take It Easy for the Eagles, which is, I think, how he was able to get the Eagles to then help him out with this Warren Zevon project. But Jackson Browne, another person who kind of a musician's musician, had a fair amount of hits, but definitely was not as beloved in the mainstream as he was by the singer-songwriter scene. Most people would probably know him for the song Somebody's Baby in Fast Times at Ridgemount High. That's probably one of his more famous songs. Doctor My Eyes.
Running on Empty.
Running on Empty is another good one. He has some really good songs, but to me, as someone who has all of his albums and thinks he's never written a bad song, he is not as famous as I think he should be for how good his songwriting was.
Yeah, but he is famous.
Oh, yeah. And this album did chart. It charted at 189, but it was an immediate hit. Rolling Stone's record guide just 4 years later called it a masterpiece, and that positive critical reaction is what leads to his third album, Excitable Boy, and this is the one where we get the song Werewolves of London on it. And I do want to say, before we get into this, that one thing about Warren Zevon's songwriting, and as I dove into his catalog, and I feel like I went further in this episode than I normally do because he's good. He's really good. Yeah, I think, spoiler alert, we're going to give this guy thunder. But
okay, yeah. We're not skipping to that yet, but he's really good. And also, I started feeling the similarities, and I think you and I share a love of artists that not only do they write great songs, but they also have a sense of humor and don't take themselves too seriously. And I think Warren Zevon fits perfectly in the category of someone like Andrew Gold or, Ben Folds or, even Elton John and Billy Joel. When you watch him sit down and play piano, you're like, oh, this guy's right there. But I think the one thing that sets him apart when it comes to the sense of humor is that he has a very macabre.
It's very dark. It's a very dark, snarky sense of humor.
And the reason I bring that up is because before we get to the Excitable Boy part of the story here, which even that song, Excitable Boy, I can't wait to talk about. But one of Warren's songs from his second album, Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me, was covered by Linda Ronstadt. It was kind of like a hit for her. a bigger hit for her than it was for him.
Yes.
And that song, that was one of my favorite songs that I discovered in this. I may have heard the Linda Ronstadt version before. I definitely didn't hear the Warren Zevon version. But this song is so funny, and I love the lyrics so much because it's this poor, poor, pitiful me song about this guy. Basically, the first verse is, I lay my head on the railroad tracks and wait for the double E. The railroad don't run no more. Poor, poor, pitiful me.
Yeah.
And it's
very Alone Again naturally type lyrics.
Yeah. It's a song about, in the Warren Zevon version, he meets a girl and, she basically invites him to the Rainbow Bar and asks him if he'll beat her. And then he says, I don't want to talk about it or whatever. Poor, poor, pitiful me. This song about meeting these girls and having these sexploits with them and then feeling bad for himself. Oh, woe is me that I, was mistreated by this girl or whatever. The Linda Ronstadt version, she flips gender on it, and she makes it a little bit more PG. She doesn't have the stuff about asking if she'd beat him or whatever.
Yeah.
She changes a little bit, but still so catchy and such a tongue-in-cheek, funny song. And I think that will really come into play with this Excitable Boy album.
Yeah, no, this whole album was a real treat. I revisiting this album, I was like, almost every song is great. I don't have any notes, especially on Excitable Boy. Warren Zevon definitely had his demons and struggles with addiction, which tends to mean that there's a couple albums that are oof. Definitely, you can feel that the drugs and alcohol had really taken the wheel a little bit. But Excitable Boy is that perfect balance of you have a producer who knows how to rein him in and really work with him. It's almost sad that he didn't have a bigger career because it feels like so many people championed for him so hard. This was the first time I realized that literally half of Fleetwood Mac is the backup band on the hit Werewolves of London. I had no clue that was the case.
I mean, his dark sense of humor comes through. I mean, obviously on Werewolves of London. He himself described it as a novelty song.
Yeah.
Because the how part is... It's the huge hook in the song. It's a huge thing that people love about the song. But when you look into the lyrics, they're dark and violent, but they're also funny. The line that always stuck out to me, even since I was a kid, is "Little old lady got mutilated late last night," which is a funny line and
because it's said so matter-of-factly. And
it's
so just, sure, whatever. That's what happens.
Right. And even when you go deeper into this album, the album is titled Excitable Boy. And the title track, I don't know if you dove into this song.
This song's so weird.
It is such a weird song because it's a very happy, upbeat, rockin' song. But it's about what you would maybe call a young kid who's troubled in school. You'd say, if it's a bad kid, you'd say, oh no, he's just an excitable boy. But basically this song, I want to read some of the lyrics of this song just because they're so funny. It's, well, he went down to dinner in his Sunday best. Excitable boy, they all said. And he rubbed the pot roast all over his chest. Excitable boy, they all said. Well, he's just an excitable boy. He took in the 4 a.m. show at the Clark. Excitable boy, they all said. And he bit the usherette's leg in the dark. Excitable boy, they all said. Well, he's just an excitable boy. Well, then, the third verse, this is interesting, Matt, because he makes a reference to the Everly Brothers here. Because it's, he took little Susie to the junior prom. Little Susie. Excitable boy, they all said. And he raped her and killed her. Then he took her home. Excitable boy, they all said. Well, he's just an excitable boy. And then the final verse is, after 10 long years, they let him out of the home. Excitable boy, they all said. And he dug up her grave and built a cage with her bones. Excitable boy, they all said. Well, he's just an excitable boy. Jesus Christ, is this a dark song that you would never know was this dark if you weren't paying attention to the lyrics?
Yeah, he's really big on like that juxtaposition vibe. You know who he's also comparable to, even though it doesn't come up a lot when you're researching him, is like a Randy Newman.
Oh, yeah.
Randy Newman would write these really dark, weird, satirical, fucked up lyrics to the happiest, jingly piano pieces.
Right.
Where he just writes, both of them are definitely writing songs from the perspective of despicable characters. Yeah. But in the most like upbeat sounding songs. And even in those lyrics, it is not a celebration of that excitable boy. It's more of a condemnation of the way society will just like keep brushing stuff under the rug and justifying bad behavior.
It's so smart. The Randy Newman comparison, I was going to make that comparison too. That's a perfect comparison. And also, Matt, before we move on from this, the final track on this album is the other song I referenced at the top of the episode, Lawyers, Guns, and Money. If you hear this song, it might be one you know. It's got a real, to me, recognizable hook, which is dun 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 dun. This song rocks. I kind of think it's my favorite song from him. Like I said, I've heard this song on radio. I believe at some point in the mid 2000s, it was used as the theme song of a show, the show called Justice. It may have been like a CBS show or something. It was like a short-lived show, but it's another song with like somewhat dark subject matter that is just such a good song. Hey there, One Hit Thunder listeners. Are you ready to take your music to the next level? Well, get ready to rock, because this episode is brought to you by DistroKid, the ultimate digital music distribution service for artists like you. With DistroKid, you can easily upload your songs or albums to online stores and streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music, reaching fans all around the globe. But that's just the beginning. DistroKid offers a ton of awesome features like Hyperfollow, which helps you promote your releases and get pre-saves on your songs, all for free. But wait, there's more. The DistroKid app is now available on iOS and Android. With the app, you can manage your releases, track your streaming stats, and even withdraw your earnings, all from the palm of your hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. This powerful tool allows you to put the finishing touches on your tracks in minutes, ensuring they sound polished and professional every time. But that's not all. DistroKid has just launched a brand new feature called Instant Share, allowing you to easily share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more. With Instant Share, you can keep your music streaming at the highest quality while making the best impression possible. So what are you waiting for? Elevate your music career today with DistroKid and unlock a world of possibilities. Possibilities that I know all about because I've been using DistroKid for years. It's seriously great. If you haven't used it before, you're going to love it. And One Hit Thunder listeners get an exclusive offer, 30% off your first year with DistroKid by signing up at distrokid.com/VIP/OneHitThunder. That's distrokid.com/VIP/OneHitThunder.
Hey, Nicole, do you have any favorite memories of the first season of Nevermind the Music?
I do. I love the time that we realized that I have perfect pitch.
You mean when we realized you don't have perfect pitch?
I don't know, dude. I'd love to see you prove me wrong.
I've got a piano right there.
This is the second season of Nevermind the Music,
where one psychologist finds out she's really good at music.
and one songwriter finds out he's really good at cognitive biases.
This season, we talk music and the mind, one iconic song at a time.
From the key changes in Metallica.
To the neurotransmitters in Mariah.
And can we finally talk about Taylor?
They're just gonna have to listen to Nevermind the Music.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
As we're talking about Excitable Boy, I feel like this is where we do need to talk about the hit. That is why people really know this album. And I want to start with Zevon, who did not like that this was chosen as the first single off the album. He said he wanted it to be either Johnny Strikes Up the Band or Tenderness on the Block. And when the song was a hit, he said, "I don't know why it became such a hit. We really didn't think it was a song suitable to be played on the radio, but it didn't become an albatross. It's better that I bring something to mind than nothing. There are times that I would prefer it to be something like A Bridge Over Troubled Water, but I don't think bad about the song. I still find it funny." Which I do love that he's like, look, this isn't exactly the ideal song that I would want to be famous for, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to shit on this song that's like giving me the ability to survive. But according to the guitarist on the song, he said that this was the hardest song for them that he's ever worked on. And while he was able to get his solo in one take, they tried 7 different figurations of musicians in the recording studio before they landed on the Fleetwood Mac backup band. And that 59 takes were recorded, even though they selected the second one to be what the final mix was. But he said that they began recording in the evening and they didn't stop until the following morning. And that this song basically ate up most of the album's budget because of like how much time it was taking to do.
Well, okay. Well, then there's a good reason that it was chosen as the single.
Yeah. The label's like, you spent half the budget on this song. You better believe we're pushing it out first.
Right.
And this wasn't even like, I mean, it's a hit, but it hit 21. Like, it's not even a top 20 hit. It peaked on May 13th, 1978, between Bonnie Tyler's It's a Heartache and above or below Billy Joel's Moving Out Anthony song. Yeah. Great song. Yeah. Kind of the top 5. I think that this song is better than most of the songs in the top 5. You had the Bee Gees' Night Fever at 5, Johnny Mathis and Denise Williams with Too Much, Too Little, Too Late, Wings with a Little Luck at 3, Roberta Flack with The Closer I Get to You, and then number 1, I can never remember how to pronounce this woman's name.
Yvonne
Elliman with If I Can't Have You, I Don't Want Nobody, Baby.
Right.
The debuts are way more notable to me than what's in the top 5, because you have Bob Seger still the same at 73, Only the Good Die Young from Billy Joel at 74, fuck Eric Clapton, but Wonderful Tonight debuting at 82. That's a pretty huge hit. And even Donna Summer's The Last Dance at 85. Like, those are massive songs that are all, I think, more memorable than the top 5 is.
Well, some other songs that I, made note of to put yourself in mind of when this song hit its peak of 21. You're the One That I Want from Grease was number 6.
I did see that.
Dust in the Wind from Kansas was number 9. Baby Hold On from Eddie Money was a few spots above Werewolves of London at 17. And also, Running on Empty from Jackson Browne was at 30 at this point. And also, another person I made a comparison to in this one, at number 96 on the charts at this moment, was Thank You for Being a Friend from Andrew Gold.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
This album really did a lot for Warren. So much so that at the time, Rolling Stone magazine's editors placed Warren Zevon with Jackson Browne, Neil Young, and Bruce Springsteen as the 4 most important new artists to emerge in the 70s.
Wow.
Which, again, it's one of those things where it's like they were right about 2.5 to 3 of those names, and Warren Zevon kind of was the one that didn't live up to expectations. And I don't think he ever really made, we go into later in his career and he's doing albums that are not commercially successful, and some are loved by the critics and some are not loved by the critics, but like he never, well, I don't want to say he never gave up. He definitely takes these long breaks. He takes rehab stints. Like, there are points where his career stalls out regularly, but it seems like every time that he's ready to do it again, like in 1987, he does an album where REM is his backup band and Michael Stipe is doing backup vocals for him. And then still there's contributions from Brian Setzer, Flea, Bob Dylan, Neil Young, and George Clinton. Like, the definition of a musician's musician, where this guy has had 3 albums at this point that like did not sell well and that critics were mixed on, and still these like big names in music are coming out of the woodwork to work with him.
Yeah, I mean, every step of the way he was inventive and, very much a unique artist, working with different people. Yeah, I listened to the album what's that album called? The one they did with REM?
Sentimental Hygiene.
Sentimental Hygiene. And that one's like a rockin', almost like, I mean, it's REM backing him up. So, of course, I was going to say it's like kind of jangle pop.
Yeah.
And then by 1991, he released the album Mr. Bad Example. And once again, talk about people having fans all over the place, be it David Letterman or other musicians, like very much a musician's musician. And he has a song on this album called Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead, which was then the name of a movie by this movie director, Gary, is it Felder? Or
I know that movie more than I know anything about the director. Like I've heard that title before, but that's...
Right.
I don't know anything about the guy who did it. Chris, did you also see in the late 80s, he did have a number 23 modern rock hit with a raspberry beret cover that he did?
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I listened to it and, as far as the scale of things I was super impressed with Warren Zevon for, that was not really one of them. Just because, like, it's one of those songs where how are you going to do it better or different enough from Prince? And he kind of just did like a straight rock version of it. Funny enough, Matt, that Punchline has also covered that song. Someone asked us to do it for a wedding, and so we did it, and we're like, oh, this is pretty cool. I kind of wish we still did it just because it's such a fun song, but that's beside the point.
So we talked about how musicians loved him, but we also talked about his macabre lyrics. And I think that's why a lot of authors liked him a lot. He had a good relationship with Hunter S. Thompson, which is definitely a dangerous person to have a good friendship with.
I wish so badly I could go back in time and have a friendship with Hunter S. Thompson.
But I did not know that he was tied to this particular project, which I am very familiar with. Are you familiar with the Rock Bottom Reminders?
I am not.
The Rock Bottom Reminders is a rock group made up of famous authors that basically play occasional book fairs. He was the musical coordinator and guitarist for the band, but the group included Stephen King, David Barry, Matt Groening of The Simpsons, and Amy Tan. And since he's died, they have performed one benefit show a year in his honor.
Wow.
But like I remember always hearing like, oh yeah, there's this band that's just like a bunch of musicians, like a bunch of authors who are musicians that like just come out, like do like a once a year show of cover songs. I didn't realize that he was the musical coordinator for it, that he was the guy who like brought that all together, which leads to when he dies, Stephen King dedicates Dr. Sleep to his memory. Like he had relationships with, keeping count here, he's had great relationships with some of the most famous musicians of the 70s, one of the most iconic talk show hosts of all time, and some of the biggest authors of the 80s, 90s, and beyond. Like the influence that he was able to pull off as a quote unquote one-hit wonder is psychotic. Compare that to like a Right Said Fred or like some of the other artists we've talked about on this show. Like it is insulting that this dude's career is one that we are able to discuss on this podcast.
I don't think a lot of people are saying that one hit wonder. Warren Zevon. I don't think they think of him that way. And it's funny because I also watch, now once again, David Letterman being his biggest fan and the guy who like put him on to millions of people who may not have known him otherwise. I also watched him. I believe David Letterman was presenting at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which Warren Zevon is still not in. And he was giving Pearl Jam their, welcoming Pearl Jam. David Letterman was to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I guess he was the presenter. And he talked about how we need to get Warren Zevon in here. And Pearl Jam was definitely not upset about it because they thanked David Letterman for, exposing them and making them get into Warren Zevon. So I thought that was pretty cool. There's something that struck home with me, Matt. I don't know if you know what it's going to be, but...
Is it the phobia of doctors?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about one other thing before we dive into the phobia of doctors because it ties together. Is the album Before the Wind. Did you listen to Life Will Kill Ya?
Well, that's... Is that album have... My Shit's Fucked Up on it.
Yes, it does. And that's what I want to talk about, because I think that song, now in retrospect, it's like, I think deep down he knew things weren't going great, because it has My Shit's Fucked Up and it has him covering Steve Winwood's Back in the High Life again. And it definitely, it feels like the precursor to a Goodbye album for sure, as he's talking about his phobia of doctors, his fear of finding out that things are wrong with him. And unfortunately, in 2002, just before he was about to play a folk music festival, he started to feel dizzy and started developing a cough and shortness of breath. And that's when I had to laugh at this, he was encouraged by his dentist to go see a doctor.
Well,
which I wonder if he went to the dentist and was like, I can't stop coughing. What should I do?
Well, he talked about it. I don't know if it was on David Letterman or something else I watched, but on David Letterman, he said, I might have made a tactical error in not going to a physician for 20 years.
Yeah.
To which I say, neither have I.
Yeah.
And, I don't know if doing this episode's a wake-up call for me or whatever, but he said that he just always he surrounded himself with people that always just told him, when he said he had shortness of breath, he said that like people would be like, oh, it's just stress. And then he said people would reference The Sopranos to him. Like, Tony Soprano had shortness of breath or whatever. And he didn't want to go. And I never before could relate to something harder as a person who has a phobia of doctors. And, I do think that, he lived a hard life. It sounds like, in his own words, he talked about, drugs and alcohol and stuff. But like we said, it's his son talked about it, that he thinks the mesothelioma happened because of asbestos that he was exposed to while playing in the attic of his father's carpet store in Arizona. Yeah. So there's a pretty good chance, if mesothelioma is only caused by asbestos, that the hard life wasn't really the reason,
it really didn't have much to do with it. Yeah. Unfortunately it's crazy to think he was only 56, which I'm sure in like 2004, when I read that he died at 56 and I'm, 18, that doesn't mean anything to me, but it's like, man, I have friends who are in their early 50s right now. Like that's that's not old at all. Reading the way that people spoke about him was towards the end, they said like, they talked about his relationship with Hunter S. Thompson. And they said like he had a close relationship with him, but their work both shared a twisted energy. But Warren was very much his own writer, and he was more disciplined than Hunter S. Thompson. He was meticulous. Even when he was young and high as a kite, he would agonize over every lyric. Yeah. And then like Bruce Springsteen said that he would write something that had meaning that could also be funny, and that Bruce Springsteen envied his talent as a writer to be able to do that. And David Crosby even called him his favorite songwriter, because that he saw so many things with like a very kind of like judgy eye, but could still see the humanity in all of those things. Like the love that everyone seems to have for him, doing this like full deep dive into like album after album. I think I'm with David Crosby. He might become one of my favorite songwriters. I love the way that he can write something that's catchy, snarky, cynical, but also hopeful and funny at the same time. Like there's so many different emotions in every song.
What I also took away from it is that, listen to the Excitable Boy album. It's only 8 or 9 songs, but much like my love for Ben Folds, who I actually researched, like he has to be an influence on Ben Folds.
It's very similar in their humor for sure.
The other thing that I thought was kind of similar was that when you listen to, especially the Excitable Boy album, every song is kind of its own thing. Every song is it's not like you're listening to the album and it's like every song is basically the same style. He's kind of he can go from a ballad to like an upbeat rockin' song to like, even that song, which was the last song he ever performed on David Letterman, Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner, is like a weird, like I don't know. It sounds like it's from like the 1800s or something. I don't know. It's like there's this weird like traditional music element to it.
Yeah, which fits the theming, right? Because the song is very much like about trying to take out the best sniper in a giant war. Mm-hmm. So having it have almost this military march sound like fits the concept. But like if you played that song for someone, I don't think they would immediately be like, "Oh, that's the Werewolves in London guy."
Oh,
like
definitely
it's a very,
not.
It's a very different sound. Every once in a while, you and I talk about something that maybe brought a teeny little tear to our eye, and I think that the one for me was after his performance on Letterman back in the green room. Did you read that he played a very specific guitar every time that he played David Letterman's show, and after that episode, he gave that guitar to Letterman and just asked him to take care of it. And it's like that hit me. I was like, that's like a beautiful sentence. He had said in the interview like that Letterman was the best friend that his music had ever had. Like it was someone that truly championed him. And, we can only hope to live a life where people champion us as hard as David Letterman championed his buddy Warren Zevon,
Yeah. Very, very much a talent. And Matt, we kind of alluded to how we're going to land on Warren Zevon, but before we get there, do you want to play a little Warren Zevon game?
I'll play a little Warren Zevon game. I don't know what my chances are going to be on it, but let's go for it.
You got 7 questions, and you know the rules.
Yeah.
How well do you...
I'll reiterate them in case you never know. This could be someone's first episode. It's 2 points if I don't need multiple choice, 1 point if I need the multiple choice, but if I guess without multiple choice and get it wrong, I lose a point.
That's right.
All right.
So those are the rules. What's your target goal? I think your target goal today should be, there's 7 questions. I think your target goal should be 10.
Okay.
10
I was
points.
thinking 9, so I'll go 10. I'll trust you and go 10.
In the first verse of Werewolves of London, the werewolf was looking for a place called Lee Ho Fook's. In 1974, Lee Ho Fook became the first Chinese restaurant in the UK to be awarded what?
I'm going to definitely use some multiple choice on this one. I don't even have a guess.
A Michelin star, B, a James Beard Award, C, a UK Good Food Guide review, or D, an AA Guide Award.
So when you asked the question, the first thing that came to my mind was a Michelin star, but I don't know if that is in the UK or not. But since it was what came to my mind anyway, I'm going to say a Michelin star.
You got a point, Matt. Good job.
Yeah.
You should have went with it. In verse 2 of Werewolves of London, Warren sings, "Little old lady got mutilated late last night." Which English technique is used in that lyric?
Little old lady. There's a lot of alliteration. There's a lot of L's. I'm going to say alliteration.
You got it. Good job, Matt. Alliteration, because you got little lady late last.
Yeah.
Little old lady got mutilated late last night. That's part of I think that's like low key what makes that line. I mean, the word, and even mutilated, like mutilated.
It's got the L in there.
Yeah, it's very much part of the catchiness of that. And I don't personally, I mean, I'm sure I might do it accidentally sometimes, but using alliteration in a lyric is kind of a cool thing that could make it more catchy.
Yeah.
All right, you got 3 points.
Okay.
In the third verse, Warren sings, "Lately, he's been overheard in Mayfair." Mayfair is a high-end section of London, but it's also what type of English magazine? Mayfair.
Give me multiple choice on this one.
A, celebrity gossip. B, women's fashion. C, softcore porn. Or D, home renovation. What kind of magazine is Mayfair?
I keep thinking of Wayfair,
It's Mayfair.
which is a totally different thing. I'm going to go B, women's fashion.
Matt, you're going to be disappointed to find out it's actually C, softcore porn.
You know, that was such an absurd one. I almost wanted to change to that, but my gut instinct was like fashion or home design before I guessed. So,
all right. You got 3 points after 3 questions. In the 4th verse, Warren sings, "Well, I saw Lon Chaney walking with the Queen doing the Werewolves of London." Lon Chaney starred in the 1927 MGM silent horror film London After Midnight, which was directed by Todd Browning, who was famous for directing what film 5 years later?
Chris, not only do I know the answer to this question, you can't see it, but in my basement I have a framed London After Midnight poster.
Wow.
Dracula. He did Dracula.
That is not the answer to this question.
Oh, are you looking for Freaks?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Dracula was the more successful of the two, but yes, he did Dracula and then followed it with Freaks and kind of ruined his career.
All right, I'll still give you the 5 points. Well, that film London After Midnight, it doesn't exist anymore.
It's lost. It's a lost film. It was burned up in a fire. There's a couple stills and some like one-off shots. The rumor was that someone had found a mostly complete version of it, but that was like 5 years ago and we still haven't seen anything from it. It's kind of one of those like black and white silent horror films that everyone wants to see because it's supposedly at the time like one of the scariest movies that was made for the 20s. So okay. I would love to. I think it's like a Jekyll and Hyde type situation.
Gotcha. Yeah. I can't stump you on a horror movie question. That's good.
No, not especially, like I said, I love those Universal black and white movies.
You got 5 points.
Right.
On May 1st of 1978. Now, this is the month.
Yeah.
We're doing some about the month where this song hit its peak. On May 1st of 1978, Snake in the Eagle's Shadow was released in Hong Kong, which was the breakthrough film for what actor?
Oh, for what actor?
Snake in the Eagle's Shadow was released in Hong Kong.
If to hit 10, I have to get all of these without multiple choice, right? I think that's what the math is doing.
Well, no, you'd have to get 2 out of the 3. And I think here's what I'm going to say.
I'm going to take a swing on this. I'm going to say for 70, 76,
78.
78. Okay, I'm still going for it. Jose, reread the question real quick for me.
On May 1st of 1978, Snake in the Eagle's Shadow was released in Hong Kong, which was the breakthrough film for what actor?
It's the breakthrough film. See, what I'm jumping back and forth between, and this is why I'm like, if I ask for multiple choice, I'm almost positive both of these names are going to be on the multiple choice.
I know what 2 they're going to be too. I think.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, that 78 feels right for Jackie Chan's like early film career, but all right, can I ask this question? Are you talking about a U.S. breakthrough or just a career breakthrough?
A career breakthrough.
Jackie Chan.
You got it.
Okay.
Nice job.
Because I was
man.
thinking Bruce Lee, like that would be around when Bruce Lee started to blow up in the States, but he was like famous years before that.
Yeah. Good job, man. That was a tough one. So you got 2 left. You got 7 points. You could even get one of these with the multiple choice to hit the goal.
All right.
On May 10th of 1978, this beloved SNL cast member was born in Columbus, Ohio. So the week that Werewolves of London was at number 21, this beloved SNL cast member was born in Columbus, Ohio.
I'm going to go multiple choice on this one.
A, Maya Rudolph. B, Amy Poehler. C, Kenan Thompson. Or D, Fred Armisen.
I'm going to go Fred Armisen.
That's incorrect, Matt.
Damn it.
Damn, I thought you could have... I thought you were going to spend a minute like thinking about the date 1978, so they'd be in their, mid to late 40s. And all the rest of them, Maya Rudolph, Amy Poehler, and Fred Armisen, I believe, are all in their 50s, but Kenan Thompson.
See, so what I was doing in my head was how old would he have been on All That? And I was like, I thought that he was born a little bit later and was like a teenager when he was in All That, but I'm guessing he was in his early 20s during All That. All That's 90. I was thinking All That was 98, but All That's like 94. Fuck. Okay. Yeah. Oh, well.
All right. You could still get 8 or 9 points if you get this last question. On May 12th of 1978, this actor, known for his role in American Pie, was born in Pompton Plains, New Jersey.
Oh, I think I do know this one. Is that Jason Biggs?
That is Jason Biggs.
Yeah. I was like, he's a Jersey boy. I remember that.
So close, Matt. 9 points. Still respectable. Good job.
That's what my original prediction was going to be. But all right. Oh, well.
Yeah.
At least I didn't lose any points.
No, you did pretty good.
Hell yeah. I want to pry one story out of you because, like I said, everybody knows we're going Thunder on this. It's the most undeniable Thunder we've talked about in a while. But I know that you've told me that you have a weird little history with the song Werewolves of London in the city of Philadelphia with your current podcasting co-host that's not me.
Yeah, I feel like I've told this story on podcasts so many times, but in the event someone doesn't, it's a very name-droppy sort of story, but it's true. And I feel like elements of this story, like this day, get smashed all into one room. But for the sake of the story, I'm gonna smash it all into this one moment. The parts that definitely happened in this one moment was we were playing at the Punchline. This was 2003. We were on a tour that was Less Than Jake, Tommy Two-Tone, which we've done an episode of One Hit Thunder about, 867-5309, Fall Out Boy, and Punchline was the tour at that moment. And we were playing at the Electric Factory in Philadelphia, and there was a piano backstage. Big, beautiful backstage, as you can imagine. And also, as you can imagine, this is a huge place, sold-out show. Just an amazing memory from my early 20s. And backstage, we were still buds at the time because we were the two young bands that are like, oh my God, we're on this big tour. Patrick from Fall Out Boy sat down at the piano and I sat next to him and we were singing Werewolves of London together. And he played it on the piano and just, having this little moment of this fun backstage moment. And now the guy who's become such a good friend of mine and I produce his podcast, Chris DeMakes of Less Than Jake, walks over to us, and keep in mind, we don't really know him yet. We may have met him, comes over and says a few things to us that may not age well in the year 2025 as to what he said to us about the fact that we were sitting together at this piano and singing Werewolves of London. And he walked away and we're like, oh my God. Oh no. We pissed off the headlining band. And also part of this story, the part of the story is I picture all these people around, and I definitely know this is part of this night, was I always picture while this is happening, Tommy Two-Tone drunkenly stumbling past us in a Cat in the hat, which was definitely also part of that night. Was a very drunk Tommy Two-Tone was wearing a very tall Cat in the hat and kind of just like having a blast backstage. But yes, that will always be what comes to mind when I hear Werewolves of London, and very funny.
I think the first time I heard that story was when Chris DeMakes came on our show to talk about Tommy Two-Tone.
Right.
I think that's the first time I heard it on this show.
Well, now when Chris, when I tell him that story, and we've had other guests on the show tell stories about like their first time meeting him, and he's like, now he says, I was just fucking with you guys. Like, I liked you guys or whatever. But like to us, we thought he hated us, like we were young and, nervous and whatever. And we thought like, oh my God, he hates us. But in actuality, he was just fucking with us, which I think is
especially
because
you have to think 2003. I mean, you probably formed your band doing covers of Less Than Jake's songs
Sure.
and idolizing this band, and now the lead singer's
Yeah. Well, the lead singer's also taking us on tour, and his drummer signed our band.
Yeah.
So we're just walking on eggshells, wanting to do everything to make these guys like us. And then he comes over, and you know, it's just a very funny moment from my early 20s.
I love that story. Well, Chris, happy Halloween from One Hit Thunder here.
Happy Halloween to you. Warren Zevon is definitely bringing the thunder, and I definitely think I will listen to this song at least once on Halloween Day.
This has been One Hit Thunder. One Hit Thunder is hosted by Chris Afalios of the band Punchline and produced by Matt Kelly of Geekscape.net. Underneath me, you're hearing Darkest Dark off the Punchline album, Somewhere to Land. Go to punchlinemusic.com to find out where the band is playing next and to pick up some merch. Our podcast is on Patreon. Find us at patreon.com/OHT podcast for early access to episodes, bonus conversations, and a chance to vote on future songs for us to cover. Buy some One Hit Thunder merch at our store, onehitthunder.dashery.com. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting app, and tune in next week for more One Hit Thunder.
Slowly fades, you're the beam that peaks around.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.